question for you. Do you know exactly how much is in your bank account right now? If you do, congratulations. Research shows that people who are aware of their bank balance on any given day have a healthy relationship with money, regardless of the amount of money that is in that account. And they are more likely to build a sound financial portfolio. But research also shows that most people, including business owners, don't know their bank balance, and most check their account only once a month. And that, researchers say, is being generous. And it's this lack of awareness that holds people back financially. Most often, the decision to not check in on your finances regularly signifies a lack of belief or fear in your ability to achieve financial abundance. Well, that's got to change. And surprisingly, it's not that difficult to do. So to help you do that, I brought on a business financial coach and neuro coach who shares practical strategies to help you overcome any money blocks and grow your finances. That episode begins now. Welcome to Shift or Get Off the Pot, the podcast that helps you get out of your head and into action so you can make your dreams your reality. Let's get to it. Today's episode is going to help you get savvy with your finances, and it's going to help you understand any money mindset blocks that you may have too. Because my guest is a financial business coach and a certified neuro coach, helping women take control of their business finances, eliminate those money mindset blocks, and make strategic decisions for growth and profitability. Her popular Path to Profitability program has transformed the financial confidence of many women, equipping them with the tools to lead their businesses with clarity and strategic foresight. Welcome, Audrey Faust.
Hi, Kim. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited to chat with you today and chat with your audience.
Absolutely. I want to get right into it by first talking about neuro coaching, because I mentioned that you are a certified neuro coach, and I'd love you to just explain a little bit about what a neuro coach does.
Yeah. So a neuro coach includes the brain science behind everything. So our subconscious pretty much runs the show every day. We have more than 80,000 thoughts a day. And of those 80,000 thoughts, 95% of them are coming from our subconscious. And we're usually not even aware of those thoughts. So our brains just love to automate things. So neuro coaching is getting to the subconscious and reprogramming it and rewiring it to make it work for you instead of against you. So that's what I use that a lot with the money mindset, because most of what we have in our subconscious was put in there when we were under the age of 7. So we're bringing around with us all of our family's stuff that, has been programmed in there, and we don't even know it's there. So that's kind of why it's so important, because it'll sabotage you all along the way.
Okay. And isn't that crazy too? Because, you would hope that it's working for you, because obviously it does take care of things like your breathing and your heart rate and all that kind of stuff, right? And your heart working. But I also know that the majority of our thoughts are negative, which I think is crazy, because why is it that as human beings, we would, in a sense, be conditioned to have all these negative thoughts, right? And so I think it's kind of like, oh my gosh, it's just working against me all the time. So it's really just kind of learning how to get past that, right? And then just go, okay, how can I put this to work for me?
Well, you actually bring up a great point, Kim. The negative thoughts. So where the negative thoughts actually come from is like what they call the reptilian brain. So we used to always have to look out for danger. and have this fear mindset where we would essentially get eaten or be put in danger. So our brains are still carrying that fear, which turns into negativity along with us along the way. That has never been, it's just instinct inside of us, unfortunately, to be negative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's time to change that. It's time to shake that up.
100%. 100%.
So I love conversations around finances because they're so important, obviously. And let's face it, most of us, unless we take a special class in school, most of us don't learn that much about our finances, right? And I think it's what we learn is what we've been taught by the people around us, by our family of origin and what we've witnessed there. I mean, I know I've certainly learned quite a bit from my parents and how they treated money. And quite often it led to a lot of arguments. And so it's really understanding not only how you yourself look at finances, in addition to the finances, the real nuts and bolts of your finances and how to really work with those, right?
Yes. So like in business, like you said, I always say this, people weren't taught. I mean, I went to school for 4 years to get an accounting degree. That's why I know. But most people in business, they weren't taught anything about the financial part of their business. And a lot of women beat themselves up about this. Like they think they should know. So why would you or should you know if you've never been taught? That's kind of where I start. And it's just like, stop thinking you should know or stop thinking you should be able to figure this out when you haven't gotten any training in it. And that is where I come in with the women. I work with a lot of creatives and coaches and designers, that come from that other side of the brain, that often have a lot of fear around the numbers part of their business. And I take that fear out and just help them understand it in simple ways that they can then use it to their advantage.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why it's difficult is because, first of all, it's easy, I think, now more so than ever before to start a business. I mean, the internet has made things a lot easier, right? And with the coaching industry and consulting and, getting online and doing a digital business and such, yes, it has become a little bit easier. Maybe not so much to get clients. You got to, there's a deep dive into there and a whole nother conversation and figuring that out. But at the same time, on one hand, things are easy, but I think that it's almost this false sense of a hope because you start going down one road without maybe paying attention to really the numbers. And that's what I've seen a lot. People don't really pay attention to the numbers, and the numbers are the thing that are going to help you to really start building that business. What's maybe, if there is, a number one, maybe mindset block that you see that maybe your clients have had around money?
Yes. So I have 5 questions that I have a free audio on my website, and I'll give you the link for that, where I ask 5 questions that dig into your subconscious. So it's a word association. I'm going to ask you one right now and see what your answer is. So making money is
easy.
Okay. I figured you would say that because you're in sales, right? But majority of people, making money is hard is what's programmed into their brain. It was programmed into my brain. I grew up in a family where my mom, I can hear her voice today. Like, she's not with me anymore, but I can still hear her saying, I work hard for my money, So that becomes
oh my gosh, the Donna Summer song. Isn't that the Donna Summer song?
Oh, probably.
I think it is.
Working hard for the money. Yeah,
right.
Hard for the money. Yeah, another way things can get programmed in us. It's crazy. And yeah, so if you think it's hard, you're going to make it hard. And that's, your brain wants to always prove itself right. So that's probably one of the number one things that I come across that women have. And like I said, there's 5 questions and depending on what you do and what you're good at, like different things will come up. So I knew you were going to say easy. I probably should have picked a different question. But all my salespeople, they always say easy.
Do they? That's so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to learn that, though. I'll be honest. I had to learn that. It wasn't something that just, I don't think, came naturally. I think it took a little bit of time to get there, because initially when I got into sales, I would say, oh my gosh, this requires a lot of effort. I mean, like anything worth having, right?
Right.
But then once you get to a certain point and you realize that sales is service, and if you're helping other people get what they want, then it kind of flips everything for you. And also, I think, once you start getting momentum, that momentum, starts to make things easier too. But I agree with you that I think for a lot of people, it is hard. And that is because that is the big block, because for so long we've been taught that, you have to work hard, early bird gets the worm, struggle, hustle. And yeah, it's the thinking. It just keeps putting all that stuff back into your mind, and it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, it doesn't. And it can, it can really work for you if you're able to reprogram that. So another question, I'll ask you this one. Saving money is?
I was going to say easy as well, but I thought you might think, no, she can't say easy again. So now I'm overthinking it. I'm like, easy?
No,
I shouldn't say that.
That's the first word, then it is. That's great.
That's the first word.
But like 2 out of 5, you've gotten positive.
Hey, listen, I've worked on this for a long time.
What?
I've worked on this for a long time. Trust me.
I had another person that was in sales, and sales was easy for her, but saving the money wasn't. But she always knew she could make more, right? Because she knew how to sell. So that's why I was curious to what you would, your answer was going to be to that one. But all of that is just, there's so much can sabotage us so much along the way with the money mindset. If it's in our subconscious, if we have beliefs around, wealthy people or rich people, like, then your brain's going to want to make you not be like that. Like, because you have this negative mindset in there around that. So like, that's the first thing I like to work on with my clients, because nothing else will work if you have that negative mindset programmed in there. And if you're at least not aware of it, it takes a little time to reprogram it. But once you become aware of it, you'll be like, oh, wait, there's that thing again that's coming up. So, yeah.
I remember hearing a story where somebody was talking about how they were always getting this, just weighed it down on their shoulders. Their shoulders were always aching. And it was like, how everybody has one part of their body where it's kind of like, that's their Achilles heel. It's something that just hits them, right? And for her, it was always her shoulders. And then she was telling a story one time that her dad was always saying it's on the backs, or it's on the shoulders of those people that we have to carry our weight or our, money and such. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so telling. It was actually in a mastermind program that I was in. And when I tell you, I worked really hard on understanding blocks and money blocks, because I can say now that saving money is easy, but for a long time I was like the other person that you were talking about, salesperson, because I know how to make money and I could say it was easy, but I realized that I was hitting the same financial set point every single, no matter what I did. I would have more sales than the year before or the quarter before, but something would happen where, a major expense would happen, and it would bring me right back. And I'd be like, how am I ending the year with the same amount when I had more sales than before? And that's the kind of stuff that I had to start looking at. Yeah. And I mean, isn't that the kind of stuff that just becomes so telling when you start to see, oh my gosh, there's really something going on here.
Absolutely, 100%. So you're keeping yourself from the next level for whatever reason, whatever is in your subconscious, whether you have a negative mindset around, somebody who makes that much or more or something like that. There's so many roads that can go down that it'll stop you right in your tracks. So if you don't overcome the mindset first, then none of the rest of it will help. It'll still help, but you're not going to go as fast and as far without taking care of that mindset first.
I mean, no, I love that you brought that up because it is so important, because I think that's where the whole idea of the hustle mentality comes in. It's kind of like just go, 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 do, do, do. But then we find that there is a way to work smarter. There
Yeah.
is a way that things do get to be easy, but it requires that introspection. It requires really being self-aware. And I don't think that's so easy. Do you find that when you're working with people that is kind of like the stumbling block for them?
Yeah, it's not easy. It's really hard to pinpoint it in yourself. Even myself, right? So, I mean, I always work with coaches as well, like, because like I can't always see it and I can get stuck in that same spiral as everybody else and not know how to get out of it. So, I'll always have a coach in my back pocket. Like, as long as I'm in business, I definitely know that. I've seen myself and my business transform through coaches. And, as well as if I feel like if I'm coaching other people, I also get to up level myself for them as well.
Yeah, it shines a spotlight, I think, on those things that we don't want to look at, or we just don't really believe that are there. But it does take, I think, somebody else outside of ourselves to help bring that kind of to the forefront of our minds. When you work with people through your Path to Profitability program, are you really helping them understand the basics of their finances in their business, what to look for, or how to keep accurate records, or what does that entail?
So I just started a mastermind too. So that just started this month. So I work one-on-one with Path to Profitability. And then I have a mastermind now called She Goes Profitable. So in both of those, we work on the mindset, right? That's number one. Number two is we create what I call a financial blueprint. And I call it a blueprint and not a budget. I hate the word budget. I think budgets sound restricting. Most people go into turn their brains off when they hear the word budget, right? They just don't like that word. And it's not a budget, it's a blueprint. And it gets to be flexible, and you get to figure out what you want to make or what you get to make in order to meet how much you want to pay yourself, how much you want to grow, all of those things. And it's not about constricting at all, because I believe in, okay, yes, let's look for any leaks in your business where you might be spending money and you shouldn't be. But, I'm not one that says, really constrict down and, I'm about abundance, and I'm about, well, let's increase your pricing. Let's go to a flat rate pricing versus a, hourly pricing. I do that with a lot of my designers. And then they get to expand and see it, like, it's a lot, this in sales, it's a lot easier to bring money in than it is to cut it down, because you can only cut down so much, right? Mm-hmm. But you can bring a lot more in. And whether you're bringing it in by increasing your prices, expanding your team, like, those are all the things that I work with my clients on. And we start with this blueprint in order to see, okay, here's where I am. And then we do another column, here's where I want to go. And then how are you going to get from here to there? And we figure that out. Is it building and expanding your team? Is it increasing your prices? Is it, both? So all of those things we look at, and a lot of times they're coming to me and they're not paying themselves enough. So when I say not paying themselves enough, they'll look at their income as, they have all kinds of mindset around that, right? Especially if they're charging hourly and around their worth. So we got to dig into that. And then we got to say, well, you're not just paying for yourself. Most of the time they have other team members, even if it's just a virtual assistant or somebody to help them with their social media or whatever. It's all the money is not just for them. They have to understand that whatever they're charging an hour has to cover all the other things plus pay them. So I help them understand that part too. And then let's create this picture of where you want to go, because your profit should be, and if you're an S Corp, you'll have a salary and a profit, right? that dollar amount that you have in your salary plus your profit, or, just your profit if you're not an S Corp, should be more than you can make if you went out and got a full-time job. And most of the time, it's not when I start working with clients. So we need to fix that. And we do.
You brought up, no, go ahead.
No, go for it.
You brought up several great points there. You brought up the fact that you have to, first of all, it's easier to bring money in than to constrict it. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people get tripped up with that because they kind of feel like this is what it is. This is where I'm going for, with this. But the other point that you brought up was that you have to pay yourself. And I think a lot of times people, when they start a business, because I work with a lot of people that are starting their businesses and building that, or taking it from 6 to 7 figures. And it's like, wait a minute, where are you paying yourself? Like they've got everything so commingled that they don't truly understand that. And there's got to be a fine line between those things, or a hard line really between those things. But also going from hourly to a fixed rate or a flat rate, packaged pricing makes a huge difference, because you're right. You can't look at that and say, okay, I'm going to charge X amount per hour. But then it's like, how much are you really making if you're paying these other, and even if people don't have a VA, then they get online and they go, wait a minute, oh, I have the website expense, I have this, I have whatever, my domain expense, I have my hosting, I've got my autoresponder. I mean, there's all these other things that add up. And I don't think people take that into account when you're really not only starting a business, but trying to grow it, right? But the other thing I love that you brought up, and I really want to get into this one as well, and that is the fact that most people don't know how to value their own services and their own self. I would imagine you see that a lot with women. Yeah.
All the time. And they, I don't know why women struggle with it so much. I think men sometimes have the opposite. They think they're worth like $1 million and they're maybe worth 100,000. I don't know. But women, for what I think we were almost taught maybe growing up, that we shouldn't ask for more, or we shouldn't be, greedy, or whatever kind of mindset we have like behind that. And, that goes back into even before like women were able to work and have a business. Women only been able to have a business, since the 80s. So that's crazy. It's just not, without a man like co-signing a loan or something like that. Don't even get me started down that track. But we don't really, for whatever reason, we think, you see it in corporate too, right? Where women are getting paid less than men. It's all over the place, but women aren't asking for more. So that's kind of what's got to change. It's not like, oh, just pay me more and I won't have to ask. No, you need to ask. You need to step up to the plate. You need to own your value, and you need to really, take control of that. And ask for what you're worth. Know what you're worth, or ask for more than you're worth.
Well, that's interesting too, because it's you just mentioned know what you're worth. Because you can't ask for what you're worth if you don't know what you're worth. And I think that's where a major problem is, because a lot of people, I don't think, what I found, they don't know what they're worth. And it could be that you just a matter of taking a look at what your past successes are. Mm-hmm. And then you have to boost that belief, though. I mean, it all comes back to really boosting the belief in yourself.
It is.
And then being able to say, okay, am I ready to ask for this? I had a client that hesitated on sending out invoices all the time. And then she'd get behind things and go, oh my gosh, my clients haven't paid my invoice yet. And I'm like, well, do you have net 14 or 30 days or whatever? And then there's an interest charge on it. And she was waiting for so long to send it out. And that's just a mindset block. That's just like, I don't value what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I have an exact same client did that. Jenny, who is struggling getting her invoicing out. And I'm like, Jenny, that's a mindset thing. So let's work on this. So, and she was 3 months behind. In 3 months, she was a creative. She was, a marketing creative design, fractional CMO. And she was 3 months behind in her invoicing. And it was all around her mindset. There was a little bit of technology that I was able to show her in QuickBooks and the software that she was using that helped, make it go a little quicker, how to use the different functions in there, how to email invoices and set up the ACH and all of that. But it was definitely a mindset. And once we overcame that, she called, we worked together for a couple months, and then she called me a few months later, and I think it was July of last year, and she called me and she said, Audrey, it's July 5th, and I have all my invoices out for June. Yes. And then at the end of the year, I remember it was right, I think it was between Christmas and New Year's. She called me and said, I always loved getting a phone call from her, because I knew she was like, calling to tell me a win, right? I just love wins. So she called me between Christmas and New Year's. She goes, Audrey, I have all my invoices sent out for the year already. She goes, and she's like, I had the best year ever. So just getting over that mindset, it was just crazy. And she's now hired a staff member, and she's like growing her business like crazy. So I love that. But
it makes a big difference though, because you're right. It's not just negligence. It is pushing off something because you don't value, I guess, what your services are.
You don't value yourself or your services, or you're afraid. What I get a lot is afraid people are going to say something about it. And that, I think, was what we kind of went in. I said, well, you sent them a proposal, right? She goes, yes. And I said, is it the same amount as the proposal? She said, yes. And I'm like, okay, so what's the hesitation here? Like, they said yes to the proposal already. You're not overbilling them, or, you're not billing them more than what you said, which then would just require an email, in my opinion. If the proposal then said, here's why it was more, I'm going to send this along. But there was definitely a deep mindset in there. I was so glad I was able to help her get over that, for sure.
On the flip side, though, of that, if they did come back, let's say somebody came back and they said, hey, this is more than what we expected. It's being able to stand up for yourself and find your voice, and your voice to be able to speak into that and say, well, X, Y, and Z, or maybe negotiating things and coming up with maybe a happy solution for each person.
100%. Yeah. And not being afraid of that conflict, whatever it is, right? Whatever the conflict is, if just, owning your worth. I mean, that's really what it's all about.
Yeah. And it almost sounds easy. I mean, it does sound easy. It's like, oh, you just got to own your value, know what you're worth, and there you go, put it out there, right? But you and I both know it's kind of like, oh,
it's not easy.
And I know for myself, the little things that I've done in growing my business and stuff, and going, oh my gosh, and at what point do I take that leap? Do I increase my rates? Because there has to, I think a lot of times people just set their rates and they just keep going, and then as entrepreneurs. And if you look around the world, companies raise their rates, and you have to look
almost
at that
every
and go,
year.
okay, yes, almost every year. It's like, okay, it's just the cost of doing business. Things go up, inflation, etc. And it's okay to say, hey, I've got to do this too, because you're right. You have to know what all your expenses are.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's key, because I think we just overlook that.
And you brought up a great point I wanted to go back to, is the commingling. Oh, I see this all the time. And that's one of the things that we have to unweave, right? So I see clients with no profit, and some of it is because they're commingling personal stuff with their business stuff. Well, there's two reasons not to commingle. One is if you have an LLC, and you're commingling personal, you're nullifying that LLC. you're now saying, okay, this is really all together. It's not separate. So any good lawyer could, if you got sued, could nullify the LLC because you're commingling the funds. The other thing is if you get audited by the IRS, but either personal or business, now they're auditing both. They're seeing both because they're all commingled. So, and then the third reason is obviously you're not getting accurate information to make decisions on your business. Like bottom line, like if you're commingling all your money in there and you're putting personal stuff in there that shouldn't be, then you're really not getting the best information to support your business. It's going to make you feel like crap because you're going to think you're making a heck of a lot less money than you are. And then you're like, why am I even doing this? And then, B, you're not going to be able to like look at the information and say, well, maybe I can cut down this expense or that expense, or maybe, and really see like, what is your business actually making? It's really hard to see. What is your business actually making every single month?
Do you find that most of your clients, when they come to you, they can't give you a clear answer as to what their business is making?
Oh, 100%. Usually they know the revenue. More often than not, they don't know anything about their profit. It's actually one of the questions I sometimes ask on my survey for like a strategy call or something like that. And they usually don't really know the profit. They'll know the revenue, but the profit, that's the most important number. So,
because they haven't done a profit and loss statement,
or it's too commingled. They don't really know.
Wow.
Or they don't know how to run a profit and loss, which is, again, or read the profit and loss, which is normal because nobody ever taught you, right? Nobody ever showed you anything about that, how to understand that. Or a lot of times they're not even looking at anything until the end of the year, which I'm so slow. Then I say the story's over. You can't change it. I say your financial story is either a nightmare or a fairy tale. But if you're not looking at it, there's no way you can change it. Like the year is over if you're not looking at your numbers until the end of the year when you have to send them to your tax accountant. And then you'll be surprised on how much you owe or don't owe in taxes. So
I like the not owing.
Yeah, you do, but then,
only if I've put it away in certain things, not because if I haven't made money,
You bring up a good point. People don't want to owe taxes, but if you're not paying taxes, you're not making a profit. And if you're not making a profit, you're not making any money. Like, go get a job. So it's like, you're going to pay taxes with your salary and your job. So I don't really understand, I guess, why people get so like adamant about not paying taxes in their business, and they end up spending all this money. So they're really not bringing anything home then. So it's, a lot of people don't really like to pay I don't like to pay taxes, but at least I know I'm making money in my business if I'm paying taxes.
I know.
So,
I don't like paying the taxes. I just like to know that I've been smart with it and put it into different like shelters or, tax shelters or investments or something like that. So I can go, oh, it's not, I don't have to pay as much, or I've got some savings or so, you know what I mean? Put aside. But you're right, because I have a friend that thought he was making so much money in his business. He had a great year. But then his accountant called him and said, but your loss is actually whatever it was, and he hadn't made nearly as much as he thought he made, because again, he wasn't paying attention to the numbers, but he didn't have a system in place where he knew the difference, the profit, the revenue, the profit, and the loss, right? And what was going out, the amount of things that he was spending money on to make money in the business outweighed what he was actually bringing in. And you just have to, really, it's so important to pay attention to these numbers. I mean, I remember early on, I was like, oh, I just don't want to look at this. But man, it's like looking at your checkbook every day, or checking account balance every day, your bank statements.
Yeah. Or not. Could you imagine not looking at your bank balance for an entire year?
No, I don't. I
That
know.
would be
Do you have
scary.
people that do that?
That's not looking at your business numbers,
Yeah.
or looking at what's in your business bank account and thinking that's your profit or you're not your profit or whatever. Like a lot of business owners do that. They'll look at, oh, I have $5,000 in my bank, but that doesn't really tell you, again, the whole picture. So, part of the blueprint that I was talking about with you before is looking at your profit or your potential profit and saying, okay, we figure in the taxes and we say we need every single month run a profit and loss. And then based on your tax bracket, put X number of dollars into a savings account. So it's not in your business checking. It's in this other account. It's actually you're saving for when your accountant calls on, in the spring of the following year and says you owe money. You're like, great, I'll just pull it right from my savings account. And there it is. So it's a great way to plan for profit.
No, that is a very good point because I had to learn how to start putting that money aside to pay, quarterly taxes and things like that.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And just making sure that I had that earmarked because otherwise it was easy just go, oh yeah, there it is. And just kind of have this laissez-faire attitude about it. But I also started getting, this is something I'd learned in one of mastermind groups years ago, where I started looking at my bank balance on a regular basis. And I would always add like an extra 1 or 2 zeros to the end of it. So let's say there was, 48,000 in there. I would, in my mind, I started printing it out and putting it on my vision board. I haven't done this for the business, but I really should do it for the business where it was kind of like, oh, and it would look like instead of 48,000 in there, let's say it was 480,000 or 4,080,000. You know what I mean? Because I was just adding those extra zeros. And okay, so I'm going to start doing that. I love what you're saying here about the business because it's like, okay, well, I'm looking at the bank statements. I might as well really understand that for the business and just keep adding. It's a mindset thing. What do I want to add to
It's
this?
also, law of attraction, right? If you have a vision board, I do too. It's all around law of attraction. What are you attracting? What are you, calling in? So that's another, believe it or not, activity of our subconscious brain. Like if we're programming our brain, and I was just doing video on this last week for my mastermind, if you're programming your brain for your vision, it's going to make it happen. So like if your vision is to have, to be a 7-figure CEO, then let's start programming your brain to be a 7-figure CEO. And then it just makes it easy. So, that's a very similar thing. It's kind of like, I love law of attraction, but it's also like, it all ties in with the brain science too, which is, I start geeking out on all that stuff.
No, I do too. I mean, I love it. I just had, recently I did an episode with Dr. Haley Nelson. I don't know if you know her, but she's a neuroscientist and psychologist out of Johns Hopkins and has a whole academy on cognitive and behavioral neuroscience. And it's always been fascinating to me because I started in sales and then sales training, and I had a franchise in the personal development space. And so a lot of that was all about understanding the mindset. And that's why I asked you about the neuro coaching, because now we have all that science behind it that we didn't necessarily have before.
No.
But when you have that and okay, it can be easier when you can start to reprogram your mind and start putting in the steps that can help you get there. But it's both. And I want to be really clear on that because yes, you just mentioned law of attraction and the vision board, but you're also talking about how you work with people with a practical strategy to understand things. It's not just like, okay, I'm just going to throw this out there,
Yes, it's all connected. Like, the blueprint is like, okay, here's where you are. Here's when you want to go. Here's the steps to get there. We know, we look at, okay, you're at, 250,000. You want to go to, 1 million. You're not going to be able to do that on your own. You're going to have to hire more team members. And, here's how, so you map it all out. So that, okay, here's how much I can do. reminds me of one of my clients, Helen, who said she wanted to have a $250,000 a year. And she was a health coach. And I was like, okay, but she couldn't see how to get there. So we reverse engineered it. I said, well, what's your capacity for one-on-ones? What's your capacity for group? What's your capacity? So we looked at her capacity to see if it was actually possible. We looked at the pricing she had. We tweaked it a little bit. One of her programs was like 4 months or 5 months or something like that. And we just, instead of changing the price, which is another trick, we shortened the thing. It went from like 5 months to 3 months. So now she can help more people in a less amount of time. And I asked her, I'm like, can you get them from A to Z in 3 months? She goes, yeah. I was like, great. And if you can't, then they can re-up, right? So, or if they still need more help, they re-up. So she had a little bit of a mindset around increasing the price. So we shortened it. We shortened the time, which of her package was made feel simple and easy. So when we did all that, we were over what her goal was. And then when she saw it, she goes, oh, well, that feels easy. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, because you want it. This is the thing that I think is so important. You want it to feel easy, because when it feels heavy, and it can, I think.
Absolutely.
I mean, I've started a couple of businesses. I've had a couple of businesses over the years, and now I have 2 that are going. And you can get to a point where you feel like, oh my God, I'm walking through cement. Like every day rolls into the next and I don't know where I'm going. But when you map it out, when you have a blueprint, love the word blueprint rather than budget, because I get that. Budget to me is kind of like the word accountability. Like, I became an entrepreneur because I don't want to be holding to, I don't want to be accountable. But it's so important, right? And it's the same thing with the blueprint. But if you don't have that plan, like it really does just become a matter of understanding, where do you want to go? And like you said, reverse engineering. Okay, what are the numbers that are going to get you there? And what are the different ways? Because that's what you were doing, right? You were kind of looking at, what are the different ways in which we can get to that number? Because then when you can look at that, you can go, oh, okay, well, this makes more sense. And also, what feels best for you? Because, right now you see a lot of ads online about, oh, if you're a coach or whatever, forget this, just do high ticket sales. And not everybody wants to do a high ticket sale. Not everybody wants to do one-on-one coaching. Not everybody wants to have a group coaching program. Some people want to do things a different way. And so you have to really look at
100%.
Like what makes sense, like what made sense for her. Like you said, okay, maybe shortening it so it felt easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and
important.
that, and so then, and then when you're ready to raise the price, then maybe you lengthen it and raise the price, right? I mean, those are both things you can do, or add things to that's why, when you're doing like a package deal like that, it's easy to manipulate that, a lot easier than just say, I'm doing X number an hour and I'm going to go up to this one, and then of course, when you get better at what you do, what your specialty is, you actually hurt yourself by doing the hourly, right? So that's what I like to say. The more efficient you are, the less money you're going to make.
Yeah.
That's definitely
true.
the downfall of the hourlies.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to justify too. I think when we talk about value and worth, it's when you look at hourly, it's kind of hard to go, oh my gosh, if I want to hit this amount, this is what I have to charge. And then it's kind of like, oh my gosh, is it worth that? Is it worth that? And so when you look at package, it's like, okay, what are the value? I'm always about what are the value added? What else can I put in here that can really help people? And again, it always has to come back to, what are you offering that is in service to other people, that is helping other people get what they want? Because if it's helping other people get what they want, there's the value.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. And it's also, it warms my heart when I see my clients grow and really like understand and take their businesses to the next level and become more profitable. It just like lights me up. So there's that part of it too, that, as you were saying, being of service and really like I don't know what it is about me, but even when I was in the done for you business, where I was in the accounting business, and God forbid when I did taxes way back when, I hated telling people they had owed money, and I loved telling them they had a refund. And it's like, it just in my DNA, like I love helping businesses grow and make more money. Like it's just in my DNA. So I'm feel lucky and happy and grateful that I get to do that.
Yeah. It's, I would imagine so, because it is really helping other people. And so many people that want to start a business or do start a business don't realize what it takes. And a lot of times it's just a few simple tweaks, because we see so many, what are the numbers? Like 80% of the small businesses close or something within a few years. I mean, I know the number's pretty high, and it doesn't have to be that way, depending on obviously what the business is. And if there's going to be supply and demand and such too. But I think a lot of times if we could just get a good foundation set first, then it makes things so much easier. So you can grow that business and get into 100%. Profit.
And I like your statistic. I have another one for you. So if you look at and understands the key. You can look at it and not understand anything, and it's not going to do anything for you. But if you look at it and understand the financials of your business every single month, you're going to be 80% more successful. This is a statistic from the SBA. So Small Business Administration. Like, who wouldn't want 80% more profit, 80% more sales? And like, if that's going to make me 80% more successful just by simply understanding and looking at the numbers, and I've seen it happen. I've helped businesses grow from 40 to 200% over, my career in the done for you, as well as in the coaching, and bigger numbers in the coaching, the percentages. So, but yeah, it's possible. And, I've seen it happen. I've seen businesses transform when they start looking at their financial information every single month and make decisions. And we're talking multi-seven figures in my done for you business, and that weren't looking at their numbers every month. And then they hired me and saw tremendous growth. So I'm very passionate about it, obviously.
Yeah, you are. No, and that's great, because that knowledge is key, and you can't grow what you can't measure. You have to know your numbers. I think that is like one of the most important things as a business owner, is to really understand the numbers, understand the finances, and have that strong foundation set. So I love the work that you're doing, and thank you for being here and for sharing that and for caring so much. I really appreciate that. We will put all the contact information, including a link to the Path to Profitability and some of your information down below in the show notes.
Great. Awesome.
I appreciate this.
It's so much fun.
I really love this conversation, and I'm grateful that you were able to be here and to kind of walk us through some of the things that people do deal with and the things that hold them back, because it really does get to be a little bit easier. And also, everybody has the right to abundance and to be profitable. And you obviously can help them.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Thanks so much for joining me here today. If you want some help achieving your goals, you can grab the Success Bundle link down below, or head over to my website, KimKelleyThompson.com, where I have several free resources to help you. If you like what you've heard today, please consider hitting that subscribe button and join me throughout the week for episodes that will help you make your dreams your reality. I'll be back again soon with another edition of Shift or Get Off the Pot.